And
the best song ever. Hey, can I ask you guys a question quick?
Go on.
Not football related. I'm doing something tomorrow I've never done before.
A woman?
You're laughing too hard. That's not good.
Hit home pretty hard there for Tom.
Keep going.
I'm playing Password. I've never done it.
I know, dude.
Yeah.
Carly and Zach told us about that yesterday, which
Yeah,
is
how about
fantastic.
that?
How do you feel about it?
Never heard it, never played it.
Oh, man.
Never heard it, Thomas?
Oh, boy. You need to go back and listen.
Go listen to it. There's a lot of rules.
And you will learn this about Password because... are you with Barb?
Oh, my God, Core.
If you're bad at the game, sure. Not knowing the rules drives the listeners nuts.
Okay.
Because then it makes the game unlistenable. You got to know the rules, otherwise it's really hard to listen to. Yes, Zachary, your hand's up.
That's exactly what I'm talking about, Core.
What's that?
He's going to really struggle with the no hands rule.
Oh,
Yeah, because he likes to gesture.
Down.
Not for the bit, Thomas, but put your hands down.
So I'll sit on my
tell
hands,
us
that's okay.
everything you know
I
about the
struggle
game
with it.
Password and how it works.
You say words back and forth. That's all I really know. I told Schmoll, I was like, Ed, do you listen? Because Eddie listens all the time, but I was just like, I don't. I'm usually listening to you guys then. Like, I listen to the podcast.
is it on every day?
Every Friday.
Oh, yeah. Tune in.
Yeah. So
Go
it'd be
find
like,
last Fridays,
can we
dude.
practice? Can we do one?
Sure.
Ben, see that prep right there that's in front of Tommy?
Yeah.
Just circle a word and just show Tommy, or point to a word and show Tommy. And then, Tommy, you try to give the group one word
Yep.
that makes us say the word that Ben circled.
Okay.
Now, you can't use your hands.
Can't like do face stuff.
You
either?
can't.
No.
You can't do rhyming words. Can't act anything out. You just have to say a word that makes us think of that word the fastest within 5. What do we get? 5 seconds. Ready?
Rock.
Roll.
Nice.
That was it.
Wow.
Yeah?
Conzemius, maybe you should play. Yeah.
Thanks, Justin.
That's a good game.
chemistry.
Yeah, it's a Gopher thing.
Let me give you a tougher one.
Autobiography.
Memoir.
Book.
Story. Novel.
Movie.
Biopic.
I'm dead.
You will.
You're giving the clues,
you will have
Tommy.
the other person's clues as well.
Just
So
piggyback
they will stack on top of each other. So you will have that.
That's another thing to consider, though. Be careful about what clues you give away, because
Don't make it
sometimes
too easy.
Yeah, because sometimes it's a 2-word thing. It's a 2-clue thing, and you don't want to do one that's so obvious that the second person gets it. You know what I mean?
Can we go back to roll for a second? Then you can tell us what the answer on this one is, though. So you actually, if for not listening to the game, you kind of understood. You go rock. You were trying to get us to say maybe
I've heard
like
you
the
talk
opposite.
about that. The flexion of
Like
your voice.
if the word was stone, then if you're just doing a straight synonym, you just want to go rock. Right? Because then it's just, what's another word for a rock? Then maybe I would guess stone, right? But you put the inflection up like that it was something that
something
came
more.
That's
after.
what I was trying to do with
Yeah.
autobiography. And then because it's documentary. And I was just trying to think of
Okay.
something.
Oh,
I don't
then
know.
no,
And then I was
that's
going to go
okay.
to, I was going to go to
Try.
movie.
I know that's the thing. Like his initial
not terrible.
clues were. I mean, the thing is, like, you would have the other person throw in. You said, what was your first one? Autobiography.
Yeah.
Then they would have said something, and then you would have came back with movie. Easy.
Boom.
Yeah,
Right?
I think your partner would have gotten documentary.
Can't use two words, right? Can't use more than one word. Can't use your
Ben,
hands.
thanks for that.
Let me give you one more. just
Can't
for
use
fun.
initials. By the way, don't use acronyms.
Try having Tommy guess.
Don't say like FBI.
Yeah, can we do
Okay,
the
can't
other
do
way
words
around?
like that.
Yeah.
I'll do one more.
Can we
Naked.
have Tommy guess a word?
Naked. Nude.
There it is.
See, you're gonna be all right.
Yeah,
at
I'll be
this.
good.
Yeah,
I'll be
you
good.
got
I'll
it.
be good. Yeah, can I try
Now you've got to find a word over there in your prep.
Here, Flash. You seem like you're pretty good at this game. Let's try this one.
Thomas, the inflection thing can also mean opposite, though, so be
Okay.
careful when you use it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
See if you
trying
can
not
get
to
Tommy
think
to
too
say
much.
that
Just
word.
play loose.
See if you can get them. Okay, here we go. The password is
Wednesday.
Thursday.
yeah. No, it's not right, but not a bad guess. Well done, Zach.
Great job, Zach.
All right, try again, Flash. You can do it.
5 seconds.
Today? Now put the clues together.
By the way, you also cannot do that. Don't talk in between
keep your
because
hands
you
out,
can't,
Flash.
help.
No
and coach.
coaching.
No coaching.
Weekday?
Well, how about this one? Tomorrow?
Friday.
Before?
Yesterday.
There you go.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. It's harder being on this side.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
You'll get
So
it. You'll
who's
do fine.
really good? Cor, I've heard you're good.
There's like 6 or 7 people that are really good. Everybody else just
Eddie
kinda
says
trogs
Barb's
along.
really mean to people when they're on
Are
there.
you her partner?
I don't know who I'm with.
Oh.
You'll do fine.
I think Barb's in Vegas, isn't she?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Barb's
Yeah,
not
she's in
playing.
Vegas.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're lucky then.
I think it's Carly, Creasel, and Common. So you're going to be the partner
bet
of one of
Carly.
the 3.
Bet you
Harley's
me and
good.
Carr.
I think
Harley's
you're with
sneaky
Common.
good.
I think with Common?
You should practice with Carly today.
Yeah.
You'd rather practice with Common.
I think it'll be fun. I've heard it's a great show. All my
It's
friends
super
listen.
fun. Super
It's a lot of fun. Be
Speaking
yourself, though,
speaking
Tommy.
of Carly, you guys have inspired us on Twin Cities Live. So I think today. So I'll have my meeting here in a little bit. I think the idea today is that we're going to sort of break down the physiological and emotional responses of hugs because of what happened last week with Carly and and Rosie. And the fact that have you guys ever tried actually doing the 5-second hug that Carly says is a minimum for her?
5 seconds?
Didn't she say something like she's like I hug for a minimum of 5 seconds?
Well, so yeah, and then when she came over and hugged me and she counted to 5, it felt like about 3 seconds too long.
It is wildly uncomfortable.
Way too long. Yep.
Especially when two guys are hugging.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Look at me.
I just
belly to belly.
I told her this, and I think she was offended. The 5-second hug with her that's how long I would hug you if you told me you were moving to Madagascar.
Yeah,
I'd
right.
be like, it was really nice knowing you.
Yeah.
5 seconds would feel appropriate. That's not a hey, see you next week hug.
Right.
That's see you never again hug. Right? Ever.
Correct. Yeah.
Like, you're the best. I wish you the best of luck. See you later.
Or on the opposite, I haven't seen you in a lifetime.
Right.
I'm
5
coming
seconds.
here for
It
a
is
sweet
finally
embrace.
right. Great to see you.
Yeah, great to see you. Let me get all that.
How about 1 second per every decade you don't expect to see them again?
So anyway, we're actually going to do a whole bit on like we have
Yeah.
our resident psychologist on to talk about like why it's important to get hugs, every day.
So, all right, so Elizabeth's a great example. I see her maybe 2-ish times a year, right? 2 or 3 times a year. I bet my standard time hug with Elizabeth is about 1.5 seconds, right?
Yeah.
Just enough to get in, get your arms around, and then it's like, great to see you.
yeah.
Then you're out.
Yeah.
Can you, if I held her for 5 seconds, she would be like, what's happening?
Yeah.
Start
That's
start
true.
counting.
Yeah, it's way too long.
Way too long,
Yeah.
5 seconds.
That's almost an HR violation.
Let go of
If you
me.
do that to another woman for 5 seconds,
No,
and she's not consenting to the 5 seconds.
Oh, please.
Of course,
You're benefiting from this.
5 seconds for Rosie is the minimum. Minimum.
Carly up yesterday.
Yeah, he did. He picked her up.
That's
And it's also just kind of bizarre. Like you go in for a hug and you've done the arms up and you get like you both go for the same like.
You're
There's
dancing.
got to be a standard way that we all approach a hug. Like
It's a right hand up.
It's right
like
hand
a
up,
turn.
right?
Yeah.
Should be right hand up, yeah.
But see, Elizabeth, she goes in for the hug almost
The
like
underneath?
almost like forklift.
Jeez.
Like she kind of comes underneath.
And then you're like a prom
Yeah, and
dance.
then you're kind of like
a prom
over the
dance.
top,
Yeah,
you know?
that's tough.
Yeah,
Then you're
it's-
ballroom dancing with her.
Yeah, yeah.
But it comes down to kissing. Remember, like in middle school, that's all you think about. Like you go right or left. It's
I do.
so scary.
Rosie.
But Benny, you should do like social norms every Thursday or something.
I like
and
that.
I like that bit. Yeah.
do like where you walk into an elevator and you don't turn around and look at the opening or
The
whatever.
door?
Yeah. If you stare straight back,
You're a
it's
psycho.
So uncomfortable.
You're a complete
I had to
psycho.
do.
Wait, who does that?
No, I had to do this in college. We were studying social norms, and this is one thing we had to do. And you had to do it in the wild, and you just had to go stand there.
The wild as
Downtown Minneapolis.
Try it. Don't turn around when you're in the hotel this weekend.
I can't. I don't know if I can.
It's crazy.
So
It's crazy
insane.
awkward. It's so bad, especially if there's only one other person in there. It's so bad.
Dude, one of my favorite bits back in the day, Mike Morris used to get in elevators, and whenever strangers would come on the elevator with us, as soon as the doors closed, he'd be like, I think I'm going to throw up. Yeah, I think I'm going to throw up. And he would do it the entire ride down. So, of course, Chris and I, of course, are trying not to laugh to give it away because we would just watch the faces of everybody else in the elevator going, oh my God, this giant dude is about to throw up everywhere. He did it all the time. I don't know if I'm going to make it. Nobody's It's the best. All right, let's do the news quickly. Because Flash, we're going to turn it into sports because you got to go. And Tommy, I assume you have a big boy job as well.
Yes.
This is KFAN News with Chris Hockey, presented by the St. Paul Saints.
And for Chris Hockey, I'm Zach Halverson, SaintsBaseball.com. That's where you go. You get your Saints tickets. So you don't have too long left. The rest of the week, they have the Indianapolis in town. So go get your tickets. Plenty of fun to be had at CHS Field in this final week of the season for the St. Paul Saints.
Thanks to the St. Paul Saints. We love those guys. But then not tomorrow night. Today's Thursday. Saturday night, 6:30, prime time, Big Ten. The Gophers and the Hawkeyes. Again, both teams 2-1. DraftKings has the Hawkeyes as a 2.5-point favorite with just a 35.5 over-under.
Wow.
Not historically low, like we've seen Iowa in the last couple of years. Weren't they in the 27 or 28 range?
I think they're lower 30s. That
I think it was 30 last year.
I thought there was a game
The
that was in the
20s?
20s.
29, I think, wasn't it? I want to say it was 29.
Somebody looked that up, but I
That's-
think
it was the lowest
Iowa hit the
ever
20s.
since, right?
Yeah, it was
Since
ever.
lines came out?
Yep. But this one's 35.5. Your thoughts on what happened Saturday night, and should Gopher fans be optimistic?
Well, it's the opening of the Big Ten schedule, and this is the toughest stretch that we have, right? So it's a heck of a 3 weeks. You got Iowa this weekend, then you go travel to the Big House, and Michigan's struggling, but still it's a big road game, and then USC comes to Huntington Bank. So you got to get it started right. This is a must-win for Minnesota, and when you break down the defenses, these are two great defenses. Minnesota's vastly improved from week 1 versus UNC and tackling much better, but Iowa returns 8 starters from a year ago, but where they're vulnerable is through the air, especially 100%. With their corners. And there's a couple of corners they're kind of flipping them in and out because they just haven't been consistent. And at the same time, what we've seen over the last couple of weeks is that passing game for Minnesota, maybe because we've struggled to run the ball, that passing game with Max Brosmer has really come alive. And what gets me excited is his efficiency. He's 68.8% completion ratio. He's finding multiple different receivers. He's finding running backs out of the backfield. He's finding tight ends down the seam. He's in play action, finding guys in more of those intermediate routes. He's not hitting the big home runs, and we don't need that. We just need him to be efficient, take care of the football. And so if there's an advantage in this game, defense to defense, I think the advantage is that Minnesota passing game against that Iowa pass defense that's only ranked 76th in the country. And so we talk a lot about the great defenses. Well, let's not forget, when the non-conference slate is done in the Big Ten, Minnesota's got the number 5 defense in the country. Woo! So I think you get a big dose of Cody Lindenberg, Maverick Baranowski, Anthony Smith, Jod Joyner, and they shut down that Iowa rush attack that's been so dominant. But this is going to be smash mouth, boring Big Ten football. I actually think when I look at the statistics, one of the biggest things to look at this week is the punting game.
Thank you. I brought this up earlier this week.
The punting game is a huge advantage for Minnesota.
Massive.
Iowa is ranked 112th out of 130 games in punting the football, in Minnesota 27th. Mm-hmm. This is the type of game where the MVP flips that field position. And we flip that field position. We put them deep in their territory. But again, this is going to be a boring Big Ten football if you don't like great defense. I love great defense, so I'm excited for it. But just think of it. It's the earliest we've ever played Iowa. Mm-hmm. Primetime football, NBC game of the week, the Pig, Huntington Bank, student section's crazy. This is just like what we saw last year. This is going to be, I think, Iowa 9 with 3 field goals. And honestly, Minnesota 12 with 4 field goals.
I think you hit it a nail on the head. It's the punting game is where we have an advantage. Where we've been playing an All-American punter the past couple of years, where they've dominated special teams. They've dominated, and now they're different.
They're not where they've been.
And I think the other thing you said that was a spot on is they're so confident in their cornerback play, but they just don't have the usual corners, and they lost their corner that is usually that dominant. And now they're gone, and they're trying to fill them, and they don't have those athletes anymore. That's why they're vulnerable.
But this is the type of game you're going to stand up on so many third downs. I don't care if it's the Iowa fans there.
It's going to be great.
Both teams will be like 2 for 15 on third downs. It's just you're not going to move the chains. So someone makes a mistake. There's a turnover, a fumble, a pick. Something will happen that will be the deciding play in this game, and that's the way you got to get your team ready, like play by play. And it's going to be. This is exactly the way this series has played out over the last 5 years. But it is exceptionally important, and you can see why we get the victory. But this is an important one to get.
Massive.
To go back to back, pig year after year. It's a big deal to really make this a rivalry. This hasn't been. You know, we talked about the close games. Dude, Iowa's won all these close games except for last year. So it's a turning point for PJ Fleck and for Minnesota to take this home game. And really, I'm a believer in momentum. I think this is the game that takes the non-conference and gets you the momentum as you get into this really rough stretch of Big Ten football. I'm excited.
It's going to be great, and we just need guys like Lindenberg and Mav to not come out too excited and just play within themselves. Yeah. Because like if you backdoor one of these guys, this Caleb, the running back, could go for 60 yards. Like he's a very good running back. So I want them just because they fly around. Yeah. That's like the one thing I get so nervous for. That it's a big game that they're going to
over pursue, big cutbacks.
Trying to be hero ball, do all that stuff.
You need 11 guys playing, getting to the ball.
Just play within yourself, play in your gap, and you'll be good. And I just think it's going to come down to our guy, Jerry Gahn. I think if he has a good game, because we're going to be 40, 50 yards out, and that's what we're going to be able to get to.
And he's got to drill it.
He's got to lock in and just hit, be the what do they call him? The Siberian leg hammer or whatever. Yeah. So, he needs to be hot. And if he is,
I have all the trust in him. He's had a rough start. Let him kick the ball.
He's
for the
an
game
All-American for a reason. I think if we get within there, if we get inside the 50-yard line, I mean that's his range.
So I'm going to guess both of you are predicting Gopher wins.
12.
I'm still going to ask.
I'm going 12-9 Minnesota.
12-9.
12-9.
I think it's going to be a little more high scoring. I think it's going to be 24-10 or 24-17, depending. So I'll go with 24-17.
I tried to talk myself that both defenses loosen up and the running game gets going for Iowa and our passing game. I think they're going to struggle. I honestly think Phil Parker. And I just think the defenses are so dialed in.
Yeah.
And the offenses, it's early in the year, so the offenses all, they kind of struggle early. I think it's going to be a defensive game.
What a great thing it'll be for both programs to be on national TV to watch this kind of dynamic offense across the country. Yeah. 10-9 win for either team.
Yeah, I was basically just like, you basically just gave us a whole diatribe on why not to watch the game.
Well, I think you do a split screen. Because at 6:30, one of the coolest stories in college football this weekend is number 6 Tennessee travels to Oklahoma, number 15 for the opening game in the SEC.
So,
right?
Oklahoma, with Heupel going back to Oklahoma.
So Josh Heupel's going back to Oklahoma. So cool. So go back to 1999. Mike Leach is the offensive coordinator for Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. He goes and finds a junior college lefty in Utah, Josh Heupel, to come to Oklahoma to be the guy. He brings him to the national championship, and in the national championship game a month before, he's the runner-up for the Heisman Trophy, and he dominated the year, and he loses it to Chris Weinke. His teammates were just pissed off. So they go to the coin toss, and the linebacker says to Chris Weinke, who they're playing in the national championship, "You took our boy's trophy." And Weinke goes, "No, I didn't." You did, and you're going to find out why tonight. And he got dominated. I mean, Weinke, if you remember, had a horrible national championship game. And then a couple years later, again, former national champion Josh Heupel joins Bob Stoops' staff at Oklahoma and has a couple years of a good run. And then he had 1 year where he struggled, and they made the call to fire him. He has not been back on campus since. He's back this Saturday night, 6:30. And, oh, by the way, he gets fired. What does he do? He goes to Utah State. Who does he recruit to go to Utah State? Jordan Love. Then he finds his way to Missouri. Then he goes to UCF, and now he's at Florida. Tennessee, and He has built something at Tennessee quickly. So that's it. So run a split screen. One side you got 12-9. The other side you got like 42-35.
I love it.
And then, but the game of the week is
game of the week. We've got Illinois.
I was just going to say this is so
Friday night.
Friday night. Illinois.
Big Ten implications. These two are I think are the most underrated teams in the nation.
Agreed.
They
Illinois
are so good.
Takes on the Nebraska Cornhuskers in Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm taking Illinois on the road.
I agree, Benny. Benny, I agree. Bielema, baby. Bielema's got him right.
So 7.5 is the latest spread. So I'm taking Nebraska at home. Black shirts are back. Dylan Raiola is the true freshman quarterback, was the number 1 recruit in the country a year ago. Somehow they're able to convince him to come to Nebraska. He's lights out for a true freshman.
Isn't that where his dad played?
But you're right. His biggest test.
He likes 311.
This is the biggest test, right?
Massive. Illinois is
Bielema's
so
got
good.
it going.
I really like Illinois. I think the winner of this game, they could be sneaky to make it into the playoffs.
Well, because they don't play anyone. I mean, if you look
I agree. That's why.
If you look
I
at
think it could happen.
the future schedule here for Nebraska, they have a tough game. They're at Ohio State in about 4 weeks when they're at Ohio State, and then they go to number 11 USC. But when you look at most Big Ten teams now, the way the schedule is in the expanded view, most teams have like 3 or 4 top 15 teams on their schedules, just the way it is in the Big Ten. So they don't have that.
I agree.
So this is one of their bigger games. You win this, you're 7-0. You go to you go to the Horseshoe, then you go to the Coliseum. But this is I've watched a lot of Nebraska football. They have made the jump.
And that defensive front is sick.
Dude,
so good.
They're so good.
So good.
Flash, appreciate it, man.
Yep.
Tommy, you got to go too?
Sky,
Good
you
boy job. All right,
Bye,
dude.
guys.
Good luck on password tomorrow. You're going to do fine.
Thank you.
More with Ben Lieber after this. Sauce will walk us through sports, and Tom Pelissero talks Vikings in about 15 minutes right here on The Fan.
The Fan.
Welcome back to the Power Trip Morning Show. We ran late because Tommy and Conzemius are convinced the Gophers are national title contenders.
I mean, Alabama isn't talked about that much.
That was a real breakdown.
Yeah,
a real, true breakdown.
I like that they care, but Sauce, you have sports you want to talk about, and
Yeah.
I would like to
I'm going
give
to
you that
start with the
opportunity.
Gophers.
You can skip that. I think we covered that.
It's time for Fan 5 on the Power Trip, presented by All Around Property Preservation.
The Minnesota Twins kicked away another game as they lost 5-4 in 10 innings. The game was tied 2-2 as it went into the 10th. The Twins scored 2 to make it 4-2, but their bullpen is terrible. So they gave up 3 runs in the Guardians half of the 10th. They lost 5-4. The Twins are 80-72. Now they only have a half game lead over Detroit, who won last night 4-2 over the Royals. The Twins will look to split this series when they battle the Guardians in the final game of this series and the final game against the Guardians at 12:10 today. The players don't deserve this. The cheap-ass poll ads deserve this sinking ship.
I'm so glad you brought that up because 11 hours ago you tweeted almost exactly that. 11 hours ago you tweeted, the players deserve a better team and an ownership that gives a bleep. This is on the cheap-ass owners, not the players.
I stand by that. So does Zacho.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate for our bet that we have together because it sounds like I'm going to lose.
A month ago, I thought they were going to win 100 games, and you were going to win it by
a landslide
by September.
Yeah.
Now they have 10 games left. You have to win 7 of them.
Yikes.
They have to go 7-3.
Ouch.
How about $90 and we'll call the bet?
No, I'm going to see this thing all the way through, man.
Man, what a
not a quitter.
disaster.
Well,
You're not like the poll ads then.
oh,
It's so true.
the Gopher. Just kidding. The Vikings battle the Texans on Sunday at noon. Pregame at 10. Both of those teams are 2-0. I'm going to read the Minnesota Vikings injury report from yesterday.
Okay.
Jordan Addison did not practice. Justin Jefferson was limited, but I think Schefter tweeted he will play.
I think he'll be fine.
Brian O'Neill did not practice. Ivan Pace Jr. limited.
Is he dating some TikToker now?
Yeah, did you see that?
Yeah.
Adam
I don't know her
Schefter?
name.
No, Ivan Pace has some TikTok girlfriend now. That's apparently a big deal. I've never heard of her.
Yeah, I've never heard of her.
Okay. Dallas Turner did not practice. Andrew Van Ginkel, limited.
Gink.
Bradbury,
Whoa.
limited.
Hard K again.
Yeah, bring out the gink.
Aaron Jones.
What's a soft K?
Limited.
It's a hard letter to do a soft version of.
And then Ed Ingram and Naylor were both full participants. Now you flip it to the Houston team, Ben. Mm-hmm. Chris Boyd, former Viking, did not practice.
Forgot about him.
Nico Collins did not practice.
He's a beast.
Yep.
Joe Mixon did not practice. Their center did not practice. Their backup running back did not practice.
Let's just call the game off. Nobody's playing.
Dalton Schultz limited. Juice Scruggs, their other
what
center,
a name. Juice Scruggs?
did not practice.
That's a real guy?
Yeah, Juice Scruggs.
Hang on. It's too good to pass up. Do that again.
Juice Scruggs.
You like the juice?
I thought you were going to play That's a Terrible Name.
You want more juice?
By the way, Twins News brought to you by Quantum Fiber.
I get you more
So, yeah,
juice.
Ben, that's a long
Laundry
list of names.
It certainly is. I feel like that we're in a better injury situation than they are, even though that's almost like the same number of guys. I think that, first and foremost, I think JJ's going to play.
Oh, yeah.
I would probably even guess that maybe we see Addison playing. I don't put too much into some of the other injuries. It especially for some of the veteran guys like O'Neal, just having a Wednesday off just to make sure everything's all buttoned up and ready to go. I think that's going to be fine. I mean, obviously the one today, the injury report today is going to be way more telling than it is Wednesday. Wednesday to me, the Wednesday injury report anymore is just like whatever. Some guys are just kind of like a little sore. There's no sense in pushing it. I don't put much into it. The Thursday one and obviously the Friday ones are the big deals. But if they don't have Mixon, which I'm gonna guess they're not gonna have Mixon, it's almost like, all right, if we're down one wide receiver and they're down their starting running back and they're banged up with their backup running back, it's fair. It's even. We're even going into this game. So then it's still going to come down to just the overall X's and O's.
All right, since we ran late with Gopher segment, let's break it back on schedule, and then we can go hardcore Vikings because Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network will join us after this. We can ask him about other things around the NFL, Minnesota Vikings related. And I want to ask him about Woj as well. Just if they ever crossed paths. Yeah, same industry, just different sports. Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network is next. Power Trip Morning Show on The Fan.
The Fan.
Hey, Rubes, this football season, Bell Bank is giving one KFAN listener each week $1,000 to pay it forward to a charity of their choice. Just head over to KFAN.com keyword contest, learn more, and enter today. That's KFAN.com keyword contest. And this week's winner was Paige Hendrickson. She is supporting Roger Up, which exists to give veterans an outlet on outdoor resources and tools to live their best life, a chance to escape and reorient themselves to begin to heal as their civilian life takes shape. It's time for all of us to help more vets answer yes. So congratulations to Paige and Roger Up, and thank you to Bell Bank.
Yeah, thanks to Bell Bank. And every Thursday during the football season, thanks to Bell Bank. Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network joins the Power Trip Morning Show, and he does so now. Good morning, Tom. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Week 3 kicking off tonight, and we're getting into the interesting portion of the schedule where I think you're already seeing some teams decide that it's time to panic.
Yeah, we have a lot of NFL questions, but before we dive hardcore football or hardcore Vikings, I wanted your reaction to the Woj Bomb from himself. Woj on ESPN yesterday basically says, I'm retiring and I'm going to my alma mater of St. Bonaventure. He's going to be the GM of the men's basketball team, which is a thing now with the NIL world. Now there's going to be GMs all over the country for college sports. But it also sounds like, maybe at 55 years old, he wants to slow down and not have his phone ring 24 hours a day. That's a life that you live. So your reaction to Woj dropping the Woj bomb and the idea that maybe life slowing down at some point is good for all of you guys that are in breaking news.
I would say this. I don't know Woj personally. We follow each other on social media and stuff like that. He's obviously, great at the job that he's done for a very long period of time. I would fairly say when I read that statement. And when other people who are in this industry read that statement, we all had kind of the same reaction, which was, yep, that's about right. That rings true to me. Just the idea of, yeah, I mean, you have to be firmly committed to this, and it's got to be, you got to be willing to, miss certain things and, be on call and get up from the dinner table and tick off your wife and, disappoint your kids. Like, that's all part of, the bit. You try to have a balance with it, and I, certainly can get better at it on my end. But, to the degree of, what are you spending your time on? Like, I mean, I'd probably be frightened if I went through and added up the amount of time that I spend on scoops relative to the time I spend on literally anything else. So, good for Woj. Like, I think that's kind of the dream, which is you make, in his case, a lot of money doing this for a while, and you kind of get to call your shot and say, I'm going to get to go do something fun that's totally different here. I'm not at that point in my life, but again, reading that statement, I'm like, I 100% get it. And, good for him getting to go and do something totally different at this stage in his life.
Well, selfishly, Tom, we want you to keep doing your thing and keep grinding and scooping because we love what you do. Here's the question I have for you. I don't know how you've been affected or you've processed this win versus the Niners for the Minnesota Vikings, but it's been a little bit of a shock and a surprise to me, the reaction, I think, from the national media. I mean, if you follow X or anything like that, even just watching some of the stuff on TV, what you guys do, what ESPN does, it's like every analyst and every topic has broken down this game into the smallest parts. Like, are you a little surprised by the love that the Vikings are getting? Do you think it's warranted? Do you think it's a little bit of an overreaction just after game 2?
I think that, and we talked about this when I was in the studio a couple of weeks ago, nobody expected anything from the Vikings. Their over-under win-loss was, like 6.5? And, in the division, it was the Packers and the Lions were the playoff teams. They looked like two of the hottest teams in all of football at the end of the year. The Bears were the sexy team that everybody wanted to talk about with Caleb Williams. And then, you kind of forget a Vikings team that, let's be clear, that they're not like, this wasn't a tear down or anything else. Yes, Danielle Hunter's not there anymore, and Kirk Cousins isn't there anymore, but they went out and signed Aaron Jones. They went out and signed Stephon Gilmore. That's a team that's trying to win right now. The biggest question is going to be, what do you get from Sam Darnold? And you saw, that interception that he throws last week in the red zone, which is a pretty bad one. Like, those are the types of plays that have defined Sam Darnold's career to this point. And I think Kevin O'Connell referenced that this week. It's about how you respond to those moments. You compound one catastrophic error with another, and he did it. And he came back and, made plays. Like I tongue in cheek reposted the 97-yard touchdown to Justin Jefferson on Twitter last week. And I said, Darnold to Jefferson's looking like Cunningham to Moss. Again, I'm half joking with that, but like, you watch that play, that's kind of what it looked like. Randall Cunningham wasn't exactly a hot commodity. He was a backup quarterback who took over in 98, for an injured Brad Johnson, and then ended up having to run. And it was a lot of just, vertical passing game type stuff where it didn't matter if Randy Moss was double or triple covered. You threw it out there. Jefferson's covered on that play. He just outruns everybody, and the ball's in the perfect spot. I'm not saying this is the 98 Vikings all over again. I mean, we're 2 games into this thing, but Darnold's doing his part to make plays. And maybe the most surprising thing, even more than how he's playing, is the way that the defense is playing. Brian Flores is really good in terms of strategy and schematics, but I don't think that, even in the most optimistic view, I would have said the Vikings would be through the first 2 games of the season, be 2-0 and have allowed 23 points total, which I believe is the number. It's been impressive, but they got another really good team coming in this week. You got a couple of ex-Vikings on that roster with Diggs and Daniil. It's going to be a fun atmosphere. I'll actually be at this game. Did not have that selected on my calendar before the season. I didn't think Vikings-Texans would be a can't-miss tilt, but here we are, and it should be a fun one on Sunday.
I think the other thing, Tom, when you look back on Sunday's game, is that play that Sam Darnold had where it was 3rd and long, and Jefferson is obviously not in the game. Addison was inactive and not playing, and he threads that pass for a first down to Jalen Naylor when Hawkinson obviously isn't on the field. I thought that was something that nobody ever thought they would see from a Sam Darnold offense, where he throws that horrible interception, as you said, but he didn't collapse. He led them down and because if they turn the ball over and punt on that, the whole game changes. But I thought he was exceptional in that moment.
Well, you raise a great point, Sauce, because think about what you just said. Maybe the Vikings' 3 best players on offense weren't out there. Hawkins is not available yet. Jefferson was out of the game, and Addison unavailable because of his ankle. So you're throwing to Jalen Naylor. How many people nationwide know who Jalen Naylor is at least going into last week's game? You know, they've just done a really good job. You have to credit Kevin O'Connell, who, you know, back in 2022 didn't get a single Coach of the Year vote. Last year, you know, you can pick holes in, you know, how things went down the stretch, but he was on his 3rd, 4th quarterback. You know, guys were in and out of the lineup, and they had a lot of challenges last season. You're seeing, a coach who's really, a coaching staff that's doing their part to give these guys the best chance to succeed. They caught the 49ers at the right time. They didn't have McCaffrey. Devo was banged up in that game. Bosa was banged up in that game. But, you know, you play the guys who are on the field. That's still a really good team. It's the NFC champs. It's a team that's perpetually there at the end every year in the 49ers. You got to win over them. I think that, you know, when you were looking at this schedule, you know, you thought over those first 7 games, if you could be 4-3, even 3-4, you'd be in a pretty good position, because then you got that run of like the Colts and the Jaguars and the Titans. Then you got the Bears. The Cardinals look pretty good right now, but like that stretch doesn't look too bad. All of a sudden now you're 2-0. If you can find a way in these next 3 weeks to win 2 of those games against the Texans and then at Green Bay and then the Jets game at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, like you're 4-1 going into the bye, and you've got to be super optimistic about what you can do down the stretch. But, you know, it's a week by week league. They could come out and, you know, I mean, look at the Cowboys. They were so impressive in week 1 against Cleveland, and then they laid an absolute egg against the Saints. I mean, it's a long ass season, man. It takes some time, but what they've done so far, it's been really impressive.
Tom Pelissero, every Thursday, thanks to Bell Bank on the Power Trip Morning Show. The game against the Texans is 3 days away, but let's actually skip ahead to the one that's 10 days away. 10 days from now, the Vikings are at the Green Bay Packers, and the Packers are making news because their quarterback, Jordan Love, practiced yesterday in a limited sense, but still back at practice for the first time since that Week 1 injury against the Eagles in Brazil. Would Vikings fans be smart to assume that Jordan Love will play either Sunday or at least 10 days from now when the Vikings are in Green Bay?
I don't think you can assume it, just because, you know, the original timeline was 3 to 6 weeks, and that's still kind of right around that 3-week barrier. But it certainly seems like it's trending in the right direction. Everybody looked at what Matt LaFleur was saying last week, and, you know, well, that's gamesmanship. There's no way Love could have played. I'm telling you, they were truly keeping the door open. And even if the guy hadn't practiced, if he had woken up Saturday morning and said, hey, I can do this, they were going to roll him out there. You know, instead they get Malik Willis on the field. And I can't say enough about what Matt LaFleur did with that team last week. I mean, they had to play a different style, and they had to, you know, just run the crap out of the football, which they did against the Colts. They had to play really good defense, which they did. And Malik Willis, a guy who, you know, the entire league had given up on at this point, 20 days after being acquired in a trade from Tennessee, goes out and, you know, he made a couple of plays. He didn't have to do a lot, but he didn't put the ball in harm's way. He didn't have the big mistake. You know, he didn't throw the ball when the center vomited on it. And, you know, when there was a busted coverage and the guy's open in the red zone, he hit him for a touchdown. That, you know, that's what you can ask for. So I would say it's, you know, it's still early in the week. I would say it's probably a coin flip on whether you see Jordan Love play this week. If it's not this week, then, you know, ramp it up for a division game would make a lot of sense. He's got an MCL sprain, and the Packers are a pretty conservative team from a medical perspective, but MCL sprains in general, and I'm not a doctor, but just from everyone I've talked to through the years, you're probably not going to make them worse if it's braced up, like it's going to continue to heal while you're playing. That gives Jordan Love the opportunity here. They're just going to have to assess, you know, can he move enough? Can he protect himself? Can he avoid other injury that might come with it? And how effective can he be relative to, you know, as crazy as to say, a Malik Willis revenge game this week against Tennessee. I imagine that they're evaluating that through the entire week, not just the coaching staff and the doctors, but Jordan Love himself. He got a big contract in the offseason. That part's taken care of here. But you still want to be careful. You're a young quarterback. He's got to feel totally confident in what he can do on the field. I would anticipate that decision is not made until we get into probably Saturday morning.
Tom, why don't we just stick on the injury front? Let's just turn this into injury report central here. Going back to the Vikings game, do you get any sense that Jordan Addison may play? And then even on the flip side, I know all the Texans fans out there are really hoping that Joe Mixon can bounce back. I mean, he had a little bit of an ankle injury and then kind of looked a little nasty the way that thing kind of folded up a little bit. So what's the sense about the two big players on the injury report for both teams?
Addison not practicing at all yesterday probably is not a great sign for his availability. Usually when you're coming off an injury, you want to get a full week of practice in, especially for a young player who needs reps. We'll see what I'm going to be over there today. We'll see what he's able to do on the practice field, if anything. But I would probably feel less optimistic about that than, let's say, Justin Jefferson, who's dealing with a pretty bad quad bruise. That one, when we talk to doctors about that, and I'm not talking about the Vikings doctor, just other people, they'll tell you, like, quad bruises, man, those hurt. They can swell up and they can be painful and you can be stiff and lack range of motion. So, I know Justin Jefferson's optimistic that he's going to be able to go, but just got to see how he heals through the week. And then in terms of Mixon, that was one of 3 or 4 tackles that looked like maybe hip drop tackles. And I know Mixon was ticked off about the hit that TJ Edwards put on him. It sounds like that's a true see where we are at the end of the week type situation. Again, he didn't practice on Wednesday, but that's 3 days coming off of the injury here. So monitor his participation Thursday, Friday. If he doesn't practice at all, Damian Pierce too is banged up. Remember, he didn't play last week. That's their number 2 running back. He also didn't practice yesterday. So, is it going to be Cam Akers, who has been a cool story coming back from multiple Achilles tears, but he put the ball on the ground last week? If Mixon and Pierce can't go, good luck figuring out exactly what their plan's going to be in the backfield. It might have to be C.J. Stroud doing a lot of it with his arm.
Tom, appreciate the time, man. Thanks, dude.
Thank you to Bell Bank. Thanks to you guys. We'll talk to you next Thursday.
Bye.
Tom
See ya.
Pelissero, thanks to Bell Bank every Thursday, 7:40 on the Power Trip Morning Show. We'll do Fan 5 in a second. Headlines in the 8 o'clock hour. More of the Power Trip with Ben Lieber after this on the Fan.
Time now for the Vikings Report, presented by Hy-Vee, the official grocery partner of the Minnesota Vikings. Linebacker Jonathan Grenard joins the Power Trip next, thanks to Hy-Vee.